Hello, all. Welcome to another episode of CAPISAR Podcast. And Nicholas Polimenakos has joined me to talk about the astrology of January 2026. Thanks, Nicholas. Always great to be with you.
Yeah, good to be with you too, Ashwin. It's always odd at the beginning of the year, like to say, I think it's going to take me a couple weeks to say 2026, like when talking and conversation,
Yeah.
the transition that happens.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm excited actually for January, Ashwin. I'm excited
Sure.
more than past years because of my personal opinion on the transits of January. But yeah, I'm excited for it.
Yeah. After all, it's the first month. So let's be excited regardless anyway. Um, but I think we had a very good response and viewership for the annual forecast where S.J. Anderson and Dan Waits joined us. So thanks everyone for watching, and we really hope that it was helpful and fun. But before we begin, we wanted to reiterate once again about the trainings of CAPISAR. So one is the consulting skills training from Feb 13th to 15th, 2026 with Catherine Goshen and Laurie Santonacito. And the one-time payment will be $350, and there is also a payment plan which enables everyone to pay two times, 175 each. So this is a very, very important program if you're a practicing astrologer, and both Catherine and Laurie are really experienced and great. After all, doing all these programs, well experienced. So we highly recommend it. Followed by that, we have ethics awareness training and examination on Feb 28th, 2026 with Tara All. And obviously, Tara has been part of many boards, and she's also our ethics chair here. So she's really experienced and pays a lot of attention and gives a lot of importance to the ethical side of astrological practice. So I think she's one of the best people that someone can learn from in the astrological community today. Yeah. Again, we highly recommend this program as well. Ethics is the bottom line and really a foundation of our astrological practice. So most recommended. So we look forward to seeing some of you there in the consulting skills and ethics program.
I'll be there.
Sure, cool,
I'll
thanks.
be there in both classes, Ashwin, and really excited. Really excited. I think sometimes quickly say here that it's always good. I think in the astrological world historically too, maybe even in the Western world especially, sometimes there's a lot of self-study and it's great. I'm one of these people who's been self-taught many different types of astrology, but it was only until I started reflecting with my peers and talking about it and being in peer groups and then being in this type of training where you don't feel alone in all that. And I think one can feel reinforced with their practice, especially when it deals with one-on-one consultations. So I just know over the years from some of the workshops I've done and stuff that it's helped my practice immensely.
Yeah,
And I think it gave me and still gives me the Saturnian foundation. Um,
brilliant.
yeah. So I hopefully anybody out there watching or listening, if you're looking for something like that, you're at the crossroads of your practice, you want to take it to another level, a deep level, and we encourage you to check out the classes that Aswin mentioned. So
So one of the things that we sometimes we tend to kind of take things into granted and we assume we know, but only when we join a class we come to know that it's a completely different world, and it kind of enhances our practice even more. So I think yeah, with that we will begin the um, January forecast, and so I think we are again, starting this month with a full moon in Taurus. Oh, sorry. Uh,
Yeah, which year are you in
full moon
right
in
now?
Cancer. Full,
Ashwin, you did the typical thing that astrologists, what happens. I think we get lost in the past and the future, and we're juggling different astrological timelines because that's what
yeah.
astrologers do. Then if one is doing what sidereal and then tropical, then it adds a whole nother element to it. So anyway.
No, I like the full moon in Taurus we spoke about. So I thought I'm still kind of there, but after all, I have to move on. Full moon in Cancer on 3rd of January, uh, if you're in the States. But I think before that, on the very first January, we are beginning with a bang as Mercury enters Capricorn. So again, yeah, as Gandalf says, things are set into motion that cannot be undone now. And Capricorn is going to host Mercury on the very first day of the new year. And I think it is a very, very good welcome transit that we all should cherish and enjoy, because as much as meticulousness is very important, I think attention to detail and a little bit of playfulness as we work along is also really important. So if you're
Mhm.
really working hard and toiling, it's time for some good music along with your work. I think that's what I like when Mercury enters Capricorn. Um, a little bit of fun to play around and to make something very interesting. You know, by mid of 2025, I had a tarot reading, my first tarot reading in my life, and I, and the tarotist basically told me that I am doing a lot of things very in a very educational manner and Saturnian dry way, and I need some playfulness. So I look forward to Mercury's entry into Capricorn to bring in some playfulness. After all, to kind of add a different flavor to how I communicate and how I talk things. So maybe Lord of the Rings is one of those ways, but I think I've been doing Lord of the Rings for many years now.
I like the way you started this off here, Ashwin. I think it's interesting too because a lot of times let's say if Mercury's in Sagittarius, you could say that there's a playfulness, a type of movement that happens as mutable be
Yeah,
there, and we've had to deal with this for a long time. That goes all the way back to Mercury retrograde that started. You never hear about playfulness when Mercury goes into Capricorn, but I see what you're doing and I see what you're saying. And
yeah, it's
and you
important.
know yeah, well, I think in this instance too, considering Mercury's travels over the last 3 months, I mean, if we really think about this, the depth, the initial uh, uh, when Mercury went into 6 degrees Sag, and that's where it started to go backwards in retrograde, then it had to go all the way back to Scorpio and do that kind of internal emotional investigation with ground water trines, everything. Then it comes right back into Sagittarius. We still are coming to the end of the year there, and for some, I feel who were highly affected by the Mercury retrograde, and were wondering when things were going to change or when things are going to move forward. I think Mercury being an immutable sign does that, but to put everything into a form and we're into action, into something that's possibly shows on the outside of them instead of just on the inside is something I think with Mercury and Capricorn happens here, and I think it just so happens to be that it's on the first day of the year,
Yeah,
and you don't normally associate optimism with, let's say, a Mercury and Capricorn. But if you were thinking from laying down a plan and a foundation and initiating
strategy.
those foundations, the strategy exactly, that could feel pretty good actually. So I still, yes, play the music.
Yeah,
Uh,
but still get your calendar done, because getting
yeah,
the calendar done is one of the most important things, isn't it, Nicholas? Because with Mercury entering Capricorn, obviously there is an element of meticulousness that comes in naturally. There is this seriousness, professionalism, but playing a music on the background and trying to be um, a little mindful of what we are doing without getting into the serious Saturnian mode kind of helps us get the job done. And that I feel is Mercury in Capricorn. It enables this. Sometimes when we are working and toiling too hard, we get too immersed that we forget our presence of mind. I think Mercury's entry into Capricorn is the kindling of this presence of mind that probably was lost all along with or not lost, but at least kind of a little subdued
Yeah.
for a lot of time with Saturn in its retrogression, and obviously no dignity for Saturn. So I think Mercury's entry into Capricorn is a crucial nudge for us to kind of move forward uh, with a combination of serious focus, but also a little bit of presence of mind and element of playfulness that could potentially kind of take us forward.
Yeah, I
Uh,
guess it's one of the tools one could use. And I
yes.
think anything in Capricorn, when one has the plan, you have the tools and the resources that you bring in to make the
Yeah.
plan happen. And I really like your example of a resource with music, Ashwin. So
Um, with that, I think there is a nice trine. Sorry, not trine, but I'm still in uh, Taurus. So there is an opposition.
listen, let's just tell everybody, Ashwin, we're actually recording this. Ashwin's not an outer body planet person, but I am. We're recording this with a Mercury coming out of Mercury Saturn square and then going into the last degree of Mercury Neptune square. So we're in that liminal place. But yeah, anyway, Happy New Year to everybody out there since it's January 1st. And I
Yes.
think it's a great way to start the new year with Mercury there, which let's mention really quick too. Is starting to pick up speed and is out of bounds. Is one of the
Yeah.
planets that is out of bounds along with Venus and Mars, Pluto in the background, but very strong stuff that's happening here. So
Yeah. Um, so the full moon is happening in Cancer at the early 14th degree. So 13 degrees of Cancer is the full moon, which basically kind of will eventually be a whole sign opposition for Mercury in Capricorn. So I always see this as you know a discrepancy between the heart and the mind. There is no bridge between heart and the mind. So for me, the moon is the heart and Mercury is the mind, the rational and emotional mind. So there is this mismatch or imbalance. So there is this inherent indecisiveness during the full moon. So it's for me this full moon where the moon is close to Jupiter. Although Jupiter is retrograde, there is a little bit of closeness that moon is with Jupiter. So there is a benefic application that the full moon is having. And on the other hand, there is Mercury. So it's good not to be very, very decisive during this period. So it's always good to have this inner um, feelings or self-reflective thought process to begin the year, and try to kind of be in this self-nourishing mode, but also observing what is going on the other end, because quickly things could get emotional with Mars also in the opposition, and there is a lot of opportunity or chances for us to kind of just blow things out of proportion with the full moon. But I think overall, um, just staying, kind of trying to keep a low profile is going to work with this full moon, as far as I see, and trying to make progress internally is far more important than explicit external progress. Is my feeling. So, if someone can get a massage done during this period, that's a good thing. It is a progress. It's going to be a rejuvenation, and yeah, and also kind of trying to put together a calendar, isn't it? I've been thinking about calendar and strategizing the year for the most part. And I think Mercury's entry into some people don't get to the calendar until the new year begins or new year is born.
Mm.
and they want to kind of have a feel of the year and then start working on their calendars. So I think this full moon is a good reminder that, or a self confrontational position that we can take in terms of how we can prepare for the year ahead, by at least starting with the full moon.
Yeah, I again, for the first 3 or 4 days of a year to have that Mercury ingress and then to have a lunation like this, I also put that in combination with like here, let's say in the States and certain parts of the world where we're still in the holiday space,
Yeah.
and we're around a lot of family or what we consider family or family issues come up, everything, and we get to the last days of the holiday here, and then, we're going to come back into the new year and back to work, or for some people, it's interesting to, people might have been walking and been in the narrative of what family, home, and security is literally for many people during the holidays and the things that come up in those places. And I think I look at something like this and I'm thinking, yeah, we're looking at the new year ahead of us, but we're also looking, we're still in the overlap of what just happened in the last year and where we're going into the new year and the stories that we're
Absolutely.
carrying. And I think a little bit of this too carries a little bit of the Grand Water Trine narrative too that we just did. And I think there's some of that still there. And I think the balance, and I always bring up balance when we deal with any opposition, is can some balance be found with the internal safety and security that happens with Cancer, and then the plan that we want to enact in Capricorn that we talked about.
Yes.
And is it somehow aligning, or there's tweaks that we need to do? But I think
Yeah.
a lot of times we first start internally, like you mentioned. So yeah, I'd love a massage or to take a nice walk by the water or whatever. But still,
Yeah.
I think there is no, I don't think you can avoid the Capricorn planets here.
Yeah.
And
No, there is no
they're,
avoiding. I think
yeah,
it's part of
they're
the
there.
process anyway.
Yeah, it's part of the process, and that's what full moons are great. They're about actually. It's like I think you get to see how you can balance the two. But
Yeah.
yes, is Mars very strong here? It is. It is. And I think sometimes when emotional narratives are happening, let's say it's through family or certain types of things like that, it can get very caustic and inflamed. Or like Jupiter enhancing the moon emotionally can pour over.
Correct.
And
Yeah.
a lot of times you hear sometimes from the Capricorn end of things is like, there's the tough up or be strong and no tears. And then you
Yeah.
got the other side where like, no, we need to be in the emotional space and move through it and be present in it and not shove it to the side. So dynamics like that could happen. And
Yeah.
it's how, people can balance that. So
I think it's good to have a friend by the side.
yeah.
Uh, Having a conversation with a friend or walking around with a friend is probably going to help if something is not necessarily going the way that we want. So when you said that, uh, on the one hand, it's all about like move on and no emotional space, and on the other hand, it's all about emotional space. Like things don't really kind of fall in place when we are kind of dealing with the paradoxes. So I think there needs to be some kind of a balance, and I think another person can probably bring that balance. Imagine Frodo Baggins without Samwise Gamgee.
You're right. Yeah. Yeah. I'm also thinking like if you're a very watery person and you're in a very emotional place, that the person that's along with you is very earth oriented. In a sense too, because sometimes, from an elemental relational level, like water and earth or water lapping up against earth, right? Maybe there's so much earth and it's really dry and it needs some water coming in to irrigate.
Yeah, sure, that's
Yeah.
brilliant.
Yeah. Yeah. So.
um, Sun conjunct Venus immediately after not immediately, but 2, 3 days after the full moon in Cancer. So we have Sun conjunct Venus right in the mid of Capricorn. But I think Mars is not too far anyway. So there is a little bit of a uh, absolute brutal practicality that is needed as far as the relationship is concerned. And I think Venus going combust may be a little bit of a challenge where we fail to see the practicalities of the relationship. And it might be a little challenging within the relationship space if we don't kind of see those practicalities. And with Mars and Venus, there is a lot of passion and desire, especially in Capricorn, where Mars is exalted. So naturally, the desire and passion to kind of make the relationship work is very high. But still, I think because of the combustion, the reality is not seen. But I think on the other hand, it's also the burning of what is not needed within the relationship. So I always see that Sun conjunct Venus, although it carries some kind of an inherent irritation within the relationship, but I think it helps us to unburden the unrealistic expectations or difficult aspects of the relationship and burn it out and move forward with much more confidence. And I think towards the end of the month, with Venus slowly getting on a sextile with Saturn, will probably help along the way to ease out. So I think a little bit of a uh, uh, you know, I don't know, like ambiguity in the relationship space cannot be ignored, but I think we can play a waiting game. Uh, is what I feel.
Yeah, it's interesting because over the last year with the transits and how we've moved forward a little bit, then we've come back, and a lot of it actually has been a waiting game and some sort of transitional space. And I feel like these transits of the month, there's this a real that it's like we're building a bridge into a new world, a new space, right? And we're
Yeah.
doing it bit by bit, just almost every day during January. And I like what you said about the Sun Venus thing becoming clear.
Yeah.
When I think about Capricorn or Saturn, when I'm dealing with clients, most of the situations I find myself in clients end up being Saturnian, and a lot of times it's there's a resistance and there's a not knowing, and the not knowing is sometimes fear, and so let's say in the relational realm of like the Sun and Venus coming together, there's just certain types of realities that one cannot avoid even if one of is resistant or fear to them, that I think transits like this, there's no way out. But we don't want to make it sound like it's doom and gloom.
No.
I think there's a way. Maybe Mercury's helping here too with the way the message is being said. Coming out of the full moon and some of those emotions we swam in, but then we let's take a step forward. We could do this together. If we're going to think positively about Sun Venus, we could do this together, knowing what we both fear, but we know we must take a step forward and move and go on. And what's the next step, and how do we do it, right?
Yeah.
So there is patience involved in this too, and I think that's where one can go to if they don't feel that things are sure, the footing's not there, is you take it step by step. And from a relational point of view with Venus, can do it with who you can trust and who will be there for the long haul, for the long run. So
Yeah.
yeah. And then with Mars being there, like you mentioned, how do you have it here on the 6th? I'll pull up the chart again just for people to see because it's not separate. It's all one big transit to me, it seems. But here's the 6th Pacific time that I have up on the screen. And you could see the Sun-Venus conjunction officially. And then we're pretty much doing the Mars-Venus conjunction at the same time. We're waxing towards it. Yes, Ashwin?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I really like that Mars in Capricorn with the lunation and also Venus and the Sun. But despite the fact that there is this need to be patient, I think there is energy and also the presence of mind to kind of know when to act and when to not act or react to a situation is really there. So I think by the time Venus gets towards the end of Capricorn and sextiles with Saturn, things are going to really move forward and ease out. But on the other hand, with Mars and Capricorn, I think the work that we do or our daily life could also be one of those uh, aspects that could potentially cause a little bit of I won't say darkness, but challenges within the relationship. Maybe the time that we spend with our partners is not as much as they would like. So,
Mhm.
being unavailable also could be one of those reasons. So even if things are there, I think we need to kind of eventually make people for us to kind of mingle with. And I think that is probably one of the messages. So maybe in the Western world, it's not as much like people just enjoyed this festive season and they're moving forward. Maybe they just don't like moving away from the festive season and they want to kind of still enjoy a little more. And going away is probably causing a little bit of irritation. So the
Yeah,
transition period is a little explicit here.
For me, what came up here in a situation too, if we were to bring Mercury in this, if there was this thing like
Yeah,
I got to do the work, and so well, I thought we were going to do this, and then the plan needs to be enacted at the same time. So from a relational level, there has to be some sort of conversation that happens, and I imagine it's a Capricornian conversation where like, tell me what you need, or here's what I need, and this is what I need to be get done, and then somebody creates a shared Google Calendar and they have the days that I must be working, I'm going to be doing this, and then there's these spots, these spaces of time we can balance and do this in. It's something. It's very practical. I was kind
yeah,
of looking at this when we're looking at the chart. I'll put it up on the screen again today, just for a side note here. Like for instance, this is the Mars Venus conjunction, but we're talking about. But you see where the moon is? Like the moon is aspecting all this, like while this happens exactly in Virgo. So this is what got me thinking about like that there's a plan and a calendar and possible notifications that
no,
that
that's
that help
perfect.
yeah, that help people move through. They're using the moon in Virgo, and it's going to be very mercurial, systematic. With with Mercury there too. So stuff like this though. These are the types of things though that make the world go round. Or groups of people or in teams relating. You have to enact a plan, and we're still going step by step. All these things, but that's the reason why we have calendars and to-do lists and
Sure,
and a
absolutely.
certain type of communication where it differs from one that's wholly emotional, but one that is somewhere else because we still have to get through life. We got to pay the bills. We have to do things, So hey, we'll do this. There'll be time for that again, but for now, let's can we focus on this? And then I think there's a little bit of a negotiation that happens in situations like this. So
Yeah, and that naturally takes us toward the Sun Mars conjunction, which again talks about a little bit of challenges like this. So suddenly going into the new year and having questioned by the boss as to why is this calendar item still pending is the
yeah.
last thing that we want to hear. So the you know the better strategy is to kind of take it easy and just do what needs to be done rather than reacting, because having a conversation at workplace can be uh, uh, you know can escalate or be a little annoying for us at the end of the day. So I think it's better to kind of take it easy and just move on, because this is just one of situation that we are going to see as soon as Mars moves away from the sun. I think things will change. So I don't know. Like it's not going to move away from the sun very quickly, but eventually things will change. So I think the, pretty much the end of until the end of January, it's going to be a little bit of a transition kind of a month from the festive season, and we all need some time to adjust to what is going on. So, and as you have pointed out, the opposition of Jupiter here as well is another factor, which is a benefic factor as far as I see. There is a good benefic influence. In a way, there is a lot of scope for expansion, despite the fact that we are kind of bombarded to one corner. So it's like I think it's Harvey Specter's time now. Like if someone pushes you to the corner, like hold both the legs towards the behind and just push forward. I
Yeah,
think there is a lot of opportunity for us to do that.
Yeah, no, yeah, we can't forget Jupiter about and all this. Kind of a continuation of what happens on the full moon there, right?
Yeah,
It's a continuation there,
pretty
and
much.
makes me. I was thinking about this too. I was thinking about last year in January, what was happening with Mars. I was thinking about Mars and Cancer and the stationing of Mars going backwards.
Yeah,
And what ended up happening, like going back into Cancer, and some of the degrees it went over. And it could be for some people who have placements, Capricorn or Cancer placements, that there's a story that's moved forward in the last year, especially with Jupiter, the Jupiter ingress in Cancer. And here we are, like a year later for some of these people. And you could and having certain one's Capricorn part of their chart and then the Cancer part, those houses of the chart could be in play. That as in there's chapters that have been written already, and then we take another big chapter in that story. I was thinking about this last night. I was in my own world. Um, but I think again with something like this, the other one other thing I have too is sometimes with planets, and you correct me if I'm wrong on this, Ashwin. With Mars and Venus with the sun, we don't see them because the sun's blinding them out or washing them away. But sometimes there's hidden power moves that happen in situations like this.
there
That
is.
like it might not be outward. So there's a Mars and Capricorn, some sort of root, something from behind the scenes that no one knows about yet. It is kind of implanted or
Yeah, there is a
initiated.
sense of ruthlessness that's there. It's an underlying force that keeps us moving forward. And I think Capricorn is about extreme practicality, that ruthless or brutal way of dealing with things without giving attention to emotions. And I think I really liked what you said, like with with how things have changed from the last year since Mars' station in the early part of 2025. And I can kind of vouch for that. I have been a living example for that. Like a lot of things changed in my life around that period, and eventually I made a decision to quit my 15-year-old corporate career and move forward as a full-time astrologer. I think the retrograde station of Mars and then eventual direct motion has changed a lot of things for me, and I'm pretty sure it's been the same for a lot of people. So when you said that, it was really kind of hitting me.
Yeah. Yeah, this chart I have up here, just for instance, is when Mars turned direct. It earlier in the year. This was February 23rd, 24th, and Mars was at 17 degrees when it
Mar
happened. So
Mars
yeah,
turns direct. Okay, wonderful.
yeah,
Okay,
that was
it was
back
3 days
then.
before I actually nosebleed.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Just everything was inflamed with Mars, and then
yeah,
Jupiter's come to do something different. It's almost feel like that Mars transit kind of just brought everything up to the surface in the Cancer part of people's charts
yeah.
to be dealt with. And then here we are with the Jupiter thing of moving forward in one sense. So again, um, for me, I don't know. I personally, um, this is kind of letting things out of the bag for me, even though you don't know, but I have certain things that I have planned for the beginning of the year that are not publicly announced, but that I am initiating during these types of transits. For me, it's
Excellent.
not for everybody else. You have to see what it is for you in your own chart. But for
Yeah,
me, I was like looking at that whole week, and I was like, oh, and I've thought about it from the perspective of initiating when with planetary conjunctions like Sun, Venus, Sun, Mars. For me, and cycles and certain points in cycles.
yeah.
And for me, and how that continues at the end of the month, we'll talk about this when like Mars and Venus move into Aquarius and then what they do. But yeah, and I also want to say as before we move on here, how important Saturn in Pisces is this month. Because if you realize, if you're watching this, you're listening, we're talking so much Capricorn and Cancer, but it all kind of leads back to Saturn and Pisces, and
The
it
one
is the
man.
rule. Yep, the ruler of all this. So it's like, and at the last degree, slowly as we move out here. So, and I think about that part of the story to color it in from a transitional point of how we're moving to something else. And we have these kinds of transits that are hitting Saturn or connected to Saturn. And Saturn's like about to end 2.5 year cycle. in
Yeah.
Pisces and bring us into the new place where we'll have to do the work there. So again, I appreciate any Saturnian type of story and narrative where steps are taken, and when we get to see it in astrology with aspects almost day by day with planets, I love it. I love stuff like that. So
Yeah, I think Saturn, I think it's our last opportunity to kind of go back and see what we can carry from our past without overloading when Saturn enters Aries. And yeah, so it's really a very eye-opening period with Saturn and Pisces anyway. And I think I mentioned in the annual forecast or probably before that as well. So a lot of uh, a lot of things ended, structures crumbled, and we are kind of struggling to build newer structures around us. But with Saturn entering Pisces, it's not that we need to kind of throw everything away, but there are some sparkles of gold, like Nicholas Polimenakos, that we can try and pick up from Pisces, from our past, which means from our past, and move on without overloading. So pick up your gold possibly before Saturn enters Aries. So it's going to help us construct some really good new realities around us.
yeah,
Is what my thought here is, because with so much of concentration in Capricorn very early in the year, it's not by chance. I think it's a very good chance opportunity for us to kind of build some resources very sincerely for possibly the rest of the year.
yeah. I agree with you, and that I think sometimes too when the Saturn breaking down certain things the last 2.5 years in the Pisces part of your chart, if someone's out there and they take in Neptune into their lives too, we know this on a deeper level of ending of a massive cycle and whatever, but like we're moving forward. What do you take with you, And sometimes in the remnants, you find those sparkles of gold and you know what to take with you forward, and that gives you a little some tools and resources for you to take those steps. It just depends on your chart and where you find those tools and resources to bring you forward. So,
Absolutely.
again, I think we've been dealing for the last year with transitions and liminal spaces, but it's nice to be in a transitional space where it is outward and dealing with Earth. It just and Saturnian things where it's something that's tangible, something you can touch, something that seems real, and it isn't just something in your mind or something that's just purely emotional. All that kind of gets to be put in to steps here this month, I feel. And like you said, can help somebody for the rest of the year here. So
Yeah, I think I've been doing something like that as well. Like I put out I pretty much did a lot of calendar work and also structured some things around to ensure that I won't be lost. I have a lot of stick notes here on the wall, and my calendar is filled with colors already. So yeah, I think it's a good way to start the year.
yeah.
Maybe not everything will progress according to that, but I think at least we'll have some kind of a blueprint to take a look and use it as a guideline.
There's a lot of people who don't even follow astrology, whatever. They're getting a planner. They're getting a planner. They're getting some apps, or they're using Notion. They're doing whatever else, and they're doing their planning. It's like, you imagine if everybody in the world was really tied into astrology and then how they would actually look at the year? They just, because you're talking about post notes and planning. I got my own version of this, and we know a lot of our colleagues are astrologers.
Yes.
How we plan the year it's so funny because we're dealing with the mundane practical, and at the same time the transits are in the back of our mind or in front of us, and we're somehow combining the two or trying to make the dance happen, and we're
Yeah.
doing this with our clients too. So, even if somebody out there is watching, you're an astrologer, you're building your business, and you're thinking about, okay, I have a subscription to this, and I have this app and this program, and or how do I get my clients into the calendar so it does it? These are the types of things as astrologers, on a practical level we're dealing with, and it's a good month to deal with those things
Yeah.
in my mind because of the transit. So
No, sure. Yeah. Agreed. So, a lot of Capricorn anyway. which kind of directly sets the tone. But we also have, I don't know, I think the first taste of Aquarius happens when Venus enters Aquarius on the 17th of January. But that is a long way. Before that, we spoke a lot about the opposition from Cancer and Capricorn, but I think the first set of change is Venus entering Aquarius, and followed by that we have Mercury conjunct Mars, which is right on the not yeah, it's still very close to the exaltation degree of Mars in Capricorn. So yeah, do you want to talk about Venus entering Aquarius first or Mercury conjunct Mars? We're still with Capricorn. Maybe should we continue talking
Well,
about?
yeah, I again, it's so weird because of what happens. I mean, we're dealing with what we last left off was these like Jupiter opposition to all this stuff and Mercury doing it, and then here we are. Um, let's yeah, because we do Sun and Mars opposite Jupiter and Mercury on the 14th opposite. Uh, I wrote something here on the 15th, Venus trine Uranus, but that's not your jam. And then yeah, that's at 4:43 p.m. a.m., excuse me, Pacific, and I have it on the screen here, is Venus going to Aquarius. Now, okay, Ashwin, I'm one of these people who have Aquarius planets. So I kind of live the life a little bit.
Oh,
There's
nice.
it's nice to go to school. It's nice to be in a place that's structured, that has rules, a way of being that, let's say, the group or society is like supposedly agree to, and that space gives you a sense of stability and the responsibility to things, so you can be whatever it is in the world. And then let's just say that you were there and you just got sick of it. And it's like, well, I need to know on my own what this is. It's kind of funny what the society or what culture or society does, and from a Capricorn point of view, to tell you what you should be and do. Let's just say it's from a relational point of view, right? But
Yeah.
then something calls you and he's like, nah, this isn't fooling me. Like, there's some of the traditions work, but I don't really like this. I don't like some of these rules. I don't adhere to them. Like, something calls me from within. And so I think something like Venus and Capricorn must rebel and break off from something like that. It's a lot of Capricorn work to do within a concentrated 2 weeks, and that we needed it. It's great. And I think Venus here is the first planet. It is like by transit. It's like, I'm gonna separate myself from this. I just need some space.
Yeah.
I need some space to do this. And
Breakaway.
not only, yeah, and I don't adhere to, like, I need to meet you at 3 p.m. at this time every day. As a matter of fact, my Venus in Aquarius is going to say, "Well, I'll just tell me where you'll be or what time it is. I don't know when I'm going to show up, but I might be there." And if I don't, I hope you understand why. And some people don't understand, and some people do, and they come to expect a certain way of being, like, oh, hey, there's Venus Aquarius. They kind of run on their own timeline relationally, and so they just need their space. They're gonna show up here as long as I don't tell them they have to do it. If I
Yeah.
tell them they have to be there, they're not gonna show up. But if I say, hey, this is the time and the place, and then just walk away, they'll show up. They'll show up. So that's my Venus in Aquarius story example for you.
Nice. No, I like that. I also think, like, just carrying on from what you mentioned, it is also a relationship with the society or social circles that we are dealing with in many ways. So to kind of enjoy some of those experiences with the newer social circles that we may develop, because with Saturn in Pisces, a lot of things have come to an end. So probably we are dealing with grief or coming out of grief or dealing with sorrow or dealing with loss. But I think Venus in Aquarius is again this another nice welcome move transit kind of a thing, with how this rush into Capricorn that acts as a fuel for the beginning of the year. I think Venus's entry into Capricorn is again this nice shift towards a little bit of niceties with our relationship with the society and social circles, and trying to form some kind of a new connection with people in different societies, or being part of community work and joining communities could potentially turn out to be really crucial for in the future. And I'm not saying or suggesting that one should enter into something like that with an intention or an expectation. But I think eventually, at this point, it is a little bit of, in a way, uh, keeping in touch with any form of social circle or society is actually a healing process, in a way.
Yeah, I think we get a glimpse, and many people will, for what we've been talking about with like the air and fire era that
Yeah.
we're entering here. And to start to branch out a little bit or feel like, oh, there could be a new friends, a group of friends or a social
Sure.
circle, or it's a new job or a new space or whatever it is. There's the Saturnian way of being in Capricorn where I think it's very condensed in a certain place here, and then
Yeah.
there's the Saturnian way in Aquarius where it's the social part that's huge. And I think this is not a foreshadowing, but it's another chapter in the story that has to do with fire and air era that we're going to deal with. Uranus going into Gemini and Pluto already in Aquarius, and the fire transits are going to happen with Saturn and Aries and Jupiter and Leo, the stuff that we're dealing with here, we're going to come into the year, and it's all very outward and all very social. And here we get like sort of like opening the door to that after all the
Yes.
intense Capricorn focus.
Yeah.
So, if I think about this, it just popped up in my brain right now. I was thinking about the last time that Venus was conjunct. I got to bring in Pluto here because I remember it was December 7th, 2024. I have to bring this up for the people watching as a reminder of things. If we think about things from a slow timeline perspective, there was a conjunction with Venus right there. Remember, we were dealing with Pluto going in and out of Capricorn
Yeah.
and ingressing here in the beginning, and the dance that Pluto was doing. Now Pluto's fully involved or fully in on the ingress here in Aquarius, and Venus is the first planet this year that goes through its conjunction with Pluto, and as will all the other planets, at least Mercury and Mars coming through. So again, from the bigger scope and the bigger mundane astrology perspective, we have this place that is like, I don't know how to say this, it's like a part of my social self that's opening up to the new era that's coming. And who are my friends? And I talked about this in some of my own personal forecasts in the last couple months about, you know, who stands with what you believe in.
Yeah.
We're dealing with the Sagittarius stuff where we were exploring through Mercury and Sagittarius and the lunations that happened, and Jupiter and Cancer being the ruler of all that, like family and nations and borders and where we come from and what we carry forward. And a lot of it, I think, here in the liminal space and the mundane level, we're like wondering, we know we have to move forward. Who's aligned with what I believe in and what's at my core? And we lose a lot of people because we're not aligned anymore, and there's new people coming in, and who are they? And I think something like a Venus and Aquarius transit, you get to test those waters, and you get to see maybe
Yeah.
who is this, what spaces do I gravitate towards, and kind of a 1 foot in, I'll dip my toe in that particular space, and how that flow for me, and we're exchanging ideas. Oh, I'm going to go over here the next day and check out this social circle type of thing. But in the background, I feel like it's a setup for something bigger, and for the new era we're going to. So that's kind of what popped in my brain about this,
Oh,
Ashwin.
It's nice. I think it's a good extension from ourselves to kind of move into a different zone. And yeah, I see that as a healing process in a way. I don't know why, but it just kind
Well,
of.
yeah, it definitely can be. I think so too, because also it's so funny because you're not alone. And I
Yeah.
think it's interesting too from the Aquarius perspective or any Saturnian perspective, first and foremost, that one can be, if they're dealing with a Saturn type of story in their life or trans or whatever, you find yourself alone. Like you could find yourself, in heavy contemplation or somehow siloed away, like siloed off, cornered off.
Yeah,
and the interesting thing about Aquarius, the Saturnian rule sign, is like a different type of container, different type of thing. And people taking step forward, you don't feel so alone. And do you and I connect? And even if we don't fully agree on everything, it's the space. It's moving in the space with other people.
yeah,
That simple as that could be huge for some people. So,
sure. Yeah, no,
yeah.
amazing.
Mhm.
Uh, yeah, it's Mercury conjunct Mars and the new moon in Capricorn. Mercury gets into this exact conjunction with Mars in Capricorn, and around 12 hours later, almost exactly 12 hours later, we have the new moon in Capricorn. Uh, which is so I think this entire it's I don't know, it's amazing like to have this
Wait a
concentration.
second. I'm sorry, Ashwin, to be clear, what are you looking at here? I just want to be with you on this.
I'm
On the
saying
18th,
Mercury,
correct?
yeah, Mercury conjunct Capricorn on the
Thank you.
18th, and just about 12 hours later we have this new moon in Capricorn, exactly on the exaltation degree, close to 28 degrees of Capricorn. Is really cool.
Yeah, I've come to love this degree, but it is really cool. And again, at this point, I feel like this point, if somebody, let's say there's people there watching are not necessarily happy when Capricorn transits happen, and for some reason they just can't deal with Saturn or Saturnian situations. But
uh,
this is pretty good stuff. I think it's pretty good stuff, like you said. And I think Mercury's so huge in all this because of what has been said, its oppositions to Jupiter and what it's gone through, kind of carrying a story from Mars here, right? It's
yeah,
like moving through and then coming through and affecting the conversation. It's funny that we think about the lunation 2 weeks before,
yeah,
right? Where we saw Jupiter and the moon.
yeah. Now
You know, yeah,
it's
we're
the
on the
other
flip
way.
side of this. But
Yeah,
there's something so poignant about this. I mean, obviously there's Neptune, but it's Saturn. And see, we're back here again, Ashwin. We're back here to our favorite planet.
sure. Yeah.
Uh, yeah, sure. Why not?
It's not by chance. Again, I think
Yeah.
there is a symbolic divine indication to something like a lot of things have kind of stayed stagnant for almost 6, 7, or even 8 months for some people. And this year beginning in Capricorn, with a lot of concentration and prominence in Capricorn, Sun, Mars, the lunation occurring in Capricorn, Mercury, all these personal planets making its way into Capricorn is kind of like pushing us forward. Like we need to kind of just move forward, uh, accepting the practicality and the changes that have happened in our lives, and and also kind of have this clear plan and strategy to set up or set us up for the rest of the year, especially now still with Saturn in Pisces. So, in a way, I feel that this is a blessing that Saturn is still in Pisces and not in Aries, because we don't want another square or a pivot or a shift at this point with all these personal planets concentrated in Capricorn. So, we need a free path to move forward. And I
Mhm.
think Saturn sextiling all these planets in late Capricorn towards the new moon is a really good trigger point for us to kind of change and shift gears. Like while the year begins with the idea of moving forward and passion and desire building, planning, strategizing, and setting up our calendar and everything, I think this new moon is the trigger point where we actually get moving forward.
Yeah.
I mean, it feels like a really wonderful trigger point for me. Yeah.
I can tell, Ashwin. I could tell. I could tell here. It's like if you and I we were on a quest. We were going some mountain.
Yeah.
There's some thing down the line. We were on certain parts of the quest here in January, and we get to this place. We get to this lunation, and there happens to be like a Saturn and Pisces like temple that's like a water temple or something. And like we go there and it's like right there and it's like and like it just appears. It's right there and like what's this? And I feel like we go through this temple and there's some sort of exchange that happens and something happens in the Saturn and Pisces temple like there's a message. It's like a secret message like here, this is what it's been for. Like this is what the 2.5 years of a Saturn transit in Pisces has been for, right?
Yeah.
This is what it is to carry out because we were here. Some people might not remember when we were here because it was earlier in the year 2025 where we were at these degrees of where Saturn was, right? When we were dealing with April into May,
Yeah.
March, April into May before Saturn
Oh,
tasted Aries for a little bit. And kind of we're back at this place, but it's a little different now. It's not dreamy. It's not it's condensed and it's real and then yeah, you could taste it. And so for me, I feel like there's a message here with Saturn and Capricorn. It's like, hey, you have this now. Go forth. You have this strength. You have this wisdom of 2.5 years, of Pisces. And if we think about what Pisces is and what it does in the end, especially with Saturn being there, and you wrote something incredible lately for people who don't know. Aswin wrote something. You could download it from his plays, the Saturn and Pisces thing, because I'm like, you talk about this. But if so, let's say, Aswin, that you and I are on this path and we go into this temple. What is the message that is given to us on this Capricorn new moon? Like before we take the next big step, what would you say the message is from a bigger, deeper Piscean point of view would be?
the deep breath before the plunge.
Ah,
So, and just waiting for the sparkles of gold so that we can just pick up and move on when the right moment comes. I think Saturn in Pisces is all about waiting for the right moment to act, because there is a lot of stagnation and mixed emotions with Saturn in Pisces. The plans never kind of move forward as we expect. There is always some kind of a shift or changes or sudden slowness or hindrances that appears in our plans. But I think there is some kind of a divine spiritual intervention at each and every stage, which kind of keeps us going with a little bit of a fool's hope. And now, with Saturn kind of slowly moving towards the beginning of Aries and the end of Pisces, it is almost like we are seeing that light towards the end of the tunnel for us to open. So it's the last leg of this waiting game. So just hold for your resources to kind of come. When it comes, just grab and run.
right, yeah. I think the fool's hope is something we all need at some point. Sometimes it can be detrimental, and on other times it isn't, right? And I think that's part of the Saturn and Pisces story is to kind of discern what that is, but it has to do with some sort of trust in something else,
Yes.
right? And so you take that fool's hope, which I need, but I think with the Capricorn planets, with Mars, Mercury, Moon, and Sun here, that it's actually can become a reality, and it and
Yeah,
and
that's what the fool's hope could
it,
change into a real hope.
in the reality, yeah, so, but and what else do you have though, Ashwin, at certain points? When you're in the deepest, maybe of the most liminal places where all seems lost, or in a sense where it's for some, it's not, doesn't seem like reality because they need results. In a
Yeah.
results-driven world, you need the
No.
proof,
Yeah.
right?
No, I think we should not expect results. Sometimes it's about the process and not the results itself. So, Saturn in Pisces is a big time test for us to trust on what we do and have trust or faith in our own self to be able to kind of keep up that process and have the faith that we will reach the finish line.
Mhm.
And there will be a lot of tests along the way, and I think a lot of us have passed those tests, and this is one last leg where Saturn is testing whether or not we can kind of hold on to the experiences that we have gained. Because imagine uh, giving up at this point and moving on to something else would be an entirely different challenge. But now, as I said, like the fool's hope is slowly changing into reality. And now is the time for us to kind of hold on and have some extra faith and utilize this new year's prominence in Capricorn and continue to have faith and wait for another 2 3 months to see
Yeah,
real
no.
tangible results.
Yeah, no, well said, Ashwin. Well said. Especially for those who are like going through they happen to be watching and they're dealing with the end of their first Saturn
I
return.
just wrote this 38-page booklet on Saturn and Pisces. I have enough material, but I don't want to dump on everyone else.
No, I know. I think from a video like this, and one could take a look at a lunation. It's interesting too to have faith. At the same time, we're dealing with a new moon, where it's a tendency of like something new, or we're planting the seeds, or a cycle's happening. I feel we got to this month where there is step by step practical moves made, but it's not necessarily like immediate results. I don't think it has anything to do with that. It has to do with steps made to make a bridge into something else that's coming, and that's just how life is a lot of times. I think if one wants the depth and wants the satisfaction, really, I
Yeah.
think it has to do with patience and faith, a lot of the times. So,
Patience and faith. So,
yeah.
I just said this on one of my YouTube videos yesterday. When we kind of see that results after maybe a few days or a few months, a lot of people will think it is pure luck, but it is not luck. It is hard work meeting opportunity, resulting in success. So success is there, but I think we should now is the time not to look at success, but to look at the entire process itself. Because sometimes looking at the end result or the final mission or goal could give us a little bit of a scattery brain. So
Hmm.
for me, with Capricorn prominence, it is all about breaking the larger vision into smaller targets or achievable goals that eventually takes us forward to the final result. So planning, strategizing, and keeping faith in the process is really the key.
Yeah, throw in the calendar and the post-it notes. I think that's the best one can do.
Sure. Yeah, no, I agree. That's amazing.
Yeah,
It's a good idea.
yeah.
I think Sun's entry into Aquarius on 19th of January is also a good indication or or a platform for us to kind of be social or announce something to the world that we have been working on, even if we are not really close to the finish line. For example, if someone's writing a book and they have not spoken about the book for a very long time, maybe Sun's period in Aquarius is a good time to kind of just open up about the project on social media or other forums to kind of bring in a little bit of interest among the people. It's just one example. I mean, it doesn't mean that we have to do this only if we write a book, but in general, opening up about a project or anything that is kind of nearing completion and announcing it on a public platform, I think Sun's period in Aquarius is a really a good way to kind of uh, make it part of this Saturn's final phase or final leg in Pisces. Like we are working on the progress or process, and Sun's entry into Aquarius is actually part of that process. It is the continuity or a parallel stimulation of the same story that we are talking about.
Yeah, it's funny you say this too, because it's like basically Sun goes into Aquarius on the 19th, 20th, and then it's Mercury follows right up as it enters Aquarius, which
Communicate.
reinforces what you just said. And we have this Mercury thing. And for those watching who are like, we aren't talking about the outer bodies planets on this forecast because there's so many aspects this month. We kind of put those to the side, but just want to acknowledge, yes, Mercury did a trine with Uranus before it moved in. Yes, the lunation that we looked at 28 degrees, yes, Neptune was involved too, but I think here with what you're saying with these particular days of Mercury going in, soon to be Mars in Aquarius, Sun, there again, this feeling of if we're thinking about the adventure that we were on, and some of the new spaces after we left the lunation temple that we were talking about, and we're in some new spaces, our minds are peaked, interests are peaked, our curiosity, the new knowledge that we have acquired and how we want to disseminate that knowledge with other people, or the knowledge that we acquire through the exchange in the Aquarius platform and space, and what we could do with that and how we can change it into something else possibly, and the new ideas and new world. So I think here you could take along with what's happening with technology in the world right now, whatever opinions you have on it, that we are in an overlap and we're going to something new. And what will it be? We don't know. But I think for an individual, they might rebel towards all that from an Aquarius point of view. And it's like, no, this is my
Yeah.
thought, my dogma, my thing, and my way, or this is what my thing is, and I share it with you, and you and I in a collective, we come up with a different message,
Yeah.
right? But there's this kind of interchange that's happening here with not just the Sun ingress and Venus ingress, but all of a sudden Mercury here doing it too. And I just can't help it. There's a Plutonian influence in all this for you modern
Venus conjunct
astrologers.
Pluto.
Venus conjunct Pluto. We know the sun's going to do this Mercury. So there's like this other gateway, this other type of, it
The
could be,
otherworldly thing.
well, it's almost like, I think some don't realize from a Plutonian point of view what gets brought up to the surface than from a relational point of view, right? It could be very powerful, but very controlling. Same with Mercury going through Pluto and the sun there. There is some sort of like confrontation that could happen for some people, or uh, something that's
Freedom of
very
speech
powerful.
coming again.
Could be, yeah, could be stuff like that. And what is the actual conversation of what is freedom of speech, or those who, in a sense, say, "I made this platform for you so we can have freedom of speech," but really it's not for the whole. Inherently, it's owned by whoever, or billionaires or shareholders or whatever else, right? We're doing this for the better good of all of you, but
Well,
is it? But is it? So, but this is a foreshadowing of where we're going to this next year. This is not a surprise when it comes to how we are communicating and integrating as human beings on the planet. Benefits of
yeah.
the internet, whatever platforms, but there's the other side, and we've seen it, and we're here. And so, I think, again, very interesting month here. It seems like two, three different kinds of months here, but it's all in one. And
Yeah.
again, and it's more Saturn here though in the end for me, because of Saturn ruling it temporarily here, because it's very soon that Saturn's going to move into Aries, not too long here when we get into February. But there is some sort of, I think, situation where we're dealing with Saturnian structures in the end, and whether they're good for us or not, whether we break them down and rebel towards them or not, or we have a new way, a new structure that we're going to build for some, right?
I feel like
So
it's the new way and the new structure. So there's going to be a lot of challenges anyway. I'm sure we'll do Saturn and Aries, but anyway,
yeah.
it's a lot of changes and the newer realities that we need to embrace um, as we move forward in this year.
I recommend for people, wherever the Aquarius part of the chart is in a situation like this, is like you need lots of space in your brain and physically in your world. So let's say you're working, you're doing that, you've been doing all this the Capricornian work all month and doing whatever. It's like go
Yeah.
walk outside and get air through your lungs and let the air do its thing. You get the air things out, have space for ideas and for patterns and everything to work themselves out, or to give space to move. And I think in trusting something like that, you see things from a different perspective, or the ideas come. If you're the type of person that's creative, or like, I used to do things this way and I used to work creatively, it isn't anymore. And like when you have Aquarius transit, it's kind of made for you to move around and to go to different places, and even with other people. And then you come back to your lab, you come back to your own personal
Mhm.
autonomous space and lab, and you construct and you take what you pulled from the world. Hence, when we see the water jug of Aquarius, a lot of times that water in the jug is knowledge that Aquarius takes and synthesizes it and puts it in and brings something new, and then steps back into the social circle in the world and pours it back into the world, basically. So from a creative process, I like this here. There's a release, and at the same time, there's a little bit of like openness and excitement. Speaking as someone who's got a lot of air in their chart. So
No, excellent. I think it all ties back. Like, so you mentioned that space is really needed at this point, and I, for me, Cancer is really important in those aspects. Like Aquarius is there on the one hand, well, but Jupiter is retrograde in Cancer, and there is still time with Jupiter's retrogression in Cancer. So I think it is also another place where we kind of continuously uh, getting ready or still cultivating this personal space, and I feel like it is also important with uh, to deal with the domestic environment, the tangible domestic environment. Like maybe your workspace can be a little changed, or you can just move your couch from one place to another place, and just put in some artificial plants or something to just lighten up, or help the environment get better. So all these little changes can actually bring a lot of new thoughts or new ideas within the mental space that we're dealing with. So, and I'm talking about, you spoke about something very internal, so I'm trying to see what can aesthetically kind of build that from an external perspective. I think Jupiter in Cancer is a really good way. Like if something is decluttering is good with Jupiter in Cancer, so there is a lot of accumulation, and decluttering is good. So if something is taking up your space, it's worthwhile cutting it out by throwing it away. I mean, it's just a
yeah,
suggestion.
clean house, clean mind.
Perfect. I mean,
Yeah.
I think I shouldn't have spoken so much. I should have easily said clean house, clean mind.
This isn't just a podcast. It's a space for us personally to work out
I
our
know.
work out our thoughts there, Aswin. It's just to move through,
It's
and it's a
like
container we're creating.
it's like Rahu. Rahu is this adventurer who always goes everywhere but leaves and doesn't take care of the internal world. And Rahu has to go everywhere and then come back. Uh, on the other side, for Ketu, only to realize that everything is inside but not outside. But to
Yeah.
realize that we need to go around. So I think I did the
Yes.
right job.
No, I think you did do. You have to go through the motions and do the steps. You have to do it. Yes, yeah. But for those who don't know, when he's saying Rahu, he's saying North Node
Yeah.
and Ketu South Node. For those who don't know, and yeah, but I like that one. Oh, I gotta remember that one. That might come up again this year. Well,
Eh,
actually, it will.
surely.
And once
It will.
we're talking about Aquarius Leo stuff, we're going to be doing the second half of the year. We're going to, yeah, oh yeah, we're going to save that one.
That's there anyway. But anyway, it's a lot to talk about.
Yes. Yeah. It's
So
funny.
what's
We started talking about Mercury and Aquarius. See?
Mercury in Aquarius, and Mars also Mars enters Aquarius as well. So I think this is where the plane that was still running on the runway is now going to take off, with Mars in Aquarius. Is one single statement that I want to talk about Mars in Aquarius.
I have this natally.
Oh, Mars returns. So you are preparing for
Yeah,
something big.
tropically, I have this. Yeah, 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 yeah. It's just like, for me, it's like, I'm not telling everybody to do what I'm about to say. And I don't know if I'm going to do it, but that's the whole point is like, there's a breakout. It's like, if there's times like, I don't mind being, you're participating in social circles or places and stuff, but at some point, I have to leave or I got to do my own thing. And I think the key is for Mars and Aquarius is how they do it. Is it in a reckless, rebellious manner where everything is torn down to nothing? Like a tourist, or is it like there's a certain understanding that happens where people know around them to go, oh, Mars and Aquarius is being Mars and Aquarius. We're gonna see them again soon. They had to leave out the back door. So, for me, it just depends on the situation. And I think there's rebellion in all this and a breaking free feeling that happens. And it's the last of the Capricorn planets to move through. And I think there is a certain, I think one has to be careful in situations like this. Speaking of someone in Mars and Aquarius, about my way is the only way. And I created my way initially rebelling off someone else's way I didn't like. But then it's become my way. And because of it, sometimes it becomes dogmatic, or one can find themselves even more alienated because of the way they did an Aquarius action. And in the end, I think a lot of times with people with a lot of planets in Aquarius, sometimes will find themselves alone and wonder why. No one calls them, no one why they're not in a group. Well, they had a hand in that. Not all the time, but they had. And I think a lot of times it has to do with how they present themselves, how they do rebel, how they do stand in their Aquarius individuality. And they're needing to be in a
Yeah.
social circle at the same time, but they need their space. And it's a very interesting dance that happens, you know. So for me, it's how one does Mars and Aquarius. I like the transit this time. I'm a big fan of Plutonian transits too, going through Pluto. I'm this type of person, but inherently, if we stick to like the story you and I have been building on this podcast, Ashwin, this step by step, and the plane taking off, like I'm getting on a plane, you know, and can
Yeah.
one have some exhilaration in that, even if you don't know exactly what's going to happen? Hence, we remember we're still keeping the faith and the patience that's involved. We call it the Saturn and Pisces temple, but we're
Yes.
getting on the plane, you know. And so for me, there's nothing like that feeling of uh, you know where you stand. You created your own autonomous space. You're great with it. Everything you did within that autonomous space that you created is a reflection of who you are. And from a very positive standpoint, um, one can walk out of their Aquarius space and be excited to share with other people what they have or what they made or what they invented, right?
Yeah.
And to show up in the world, you know, with that sense of the freedom to be oneself, you know. Now, whether it gets accepted or not is a whole nother story, right? But
Yeah.
the movement and the feeling is freeing, you know. And I don't think it's like without any like wild. I think it has a Saturnian structure that's underpinning it all, you know. But you can
For
still
sure.
do, yeah, you can still be free and open and do things differently and take off and still have Saturn in your world, you know. So I really like what you said about getting on a plane or taking or we're taking off into the new era kind of thing. And yeah, thanks for listening to my Mars and Aquarius rant. I actually withheld. I
And
tempered it because I
it was
really could
nice.
have got. I really could have, you know.
This is
So
good.
yeah.
I think the culmination is really good with Neptune entering Aries. I don't know what to say about Neptune entering Aries, but I think it's the grand finale anyway, even though I don't know what it means.
Yeah, so I mean, for those listening and watching, I just want to get the Mars goes into Aquarius. We got the 23rd here on yours. Let me make sure for those watching on my notes. Um, yeah, it's the 23rd at 2:20 at least a.m. Pacific. No, I'm thinking about something else. 1:16 a.m. Pacific time. Mars goes into Aquarius. It is, I mean, Ashwin, you mentioned Neptune in Aries. I mean, for those who are studying mundane astrology, I mean, you cannot, I mean, you could question it, but you got to take into account from a mundane perspective, you know. And I think, again, I can't separate Neptune and Pisces from Saturn and Pisces in this. So I feel that the fact that it's both of them, it's not just Neptune and Aries. The only difference is we're dealing with a 14-year cycle here, you
Yeah.
know, that's ending. But I think it all moves through Saturn to me. It's just all representative to Saturn. So yeah, do we have a major cycle ending? We do. Is it had to do possibly with mass delusion and what's real and what's not? I think so, but I don't personally will know until we move forward here towards the second half of the year to reflect back on Neptune and Pisces and what really transpired, you know. But
Yeah.
from a perspective, again, if we stick to the Piscean archetype, I think it has to do with faith and it has to do with trust on such a deep level. Here, you know, on a collective level, you know,
Collect. Yeah,
and
I like that. Collective level.
yeah,
Nicely
yeah,
said.
again, I think this is very important in the background, obviously, of the month. It will be for some people. Um, uh, I don't want to scare people either, because sometimes too, if we can read about Neptune and Pisces and how it destroys everything,
Hmm.
how it can dissolve everything. Now,
Dissolution.
it depends on one's own code, faith, religion, practice of how they understand and deal with something that dissolves into nothing. You know,
Yeah.
some could be in fear of this, some welcome it. The practices that people have to help understand or move through situations like this, I think, is key. You know, what do you think about that, Ashwin?
I don't know. I just feel like with Saturn in Pisces, I think there is already a lot of dissolution that has happened. So maybe this is just the dissolution of what residual is still left.
Mm.
Uh, so in a way, it kind of is a positive thing, because we still have a little bit of unburdening to be done despite Saturn's work. And maybe Neptune is coming and following up with what
Yeah,
eventually needs to be done.
yeah, I think, if one takes the modern astrology, modern planets into play, we're dealing with more of a psychological subconscious underpinning. So, I think Saturn's the one where you could see it and we know it. I think we're actually lucky to have this happening. If someone's truly affected by this by transit, they can just go back to spring in the northern hemisphere when it was summer. You can go back to to April and May, when we did these degrees, if you're looking to make a personal connection in your own chart, and there it is in your chart with Pisces stuff. For me, um, I don't say like, oh, I'm glad for Neptune coming into Aries, or I'm glad for Neptune and Pisces. It's none of that. It's this thing where it's like, accept what it is, regardless of the transits, regardless of what it is. This is what it is. This is what I have, right? And
Yeah,
this is where I stand. And I must come to an understanding myself with, let's say it's Neptune and Pisces moving into Neptune and Aries. I must come to my own personal understanding to what this is. But
yeah.
anything I cling to, anything I thought, any resistance, anything of whatever, you know, I I even have to let that go. You just have to let it go. And anyway, we're back to the trust place. And um, one more thing I'm going to say about this. Um, and I'm not, in one sense, we're representing CAPISAR here as this organization that deals with training and stuff like that. But, if I think from a human perspective, an astrologer perspective for myself, and then dealing with one-on-one clients who come to me and they see a Pluto transit, they see a Neptune transit, and
Yeah.
they're scared. They're scared for whatever reasons, because of what they read on the internet, or what Pluto can do, or what Neptune is, or whatever. And I think one has to, if you're catching that and if you're feeling that with something, and you have this deep sense of anxiety and uncertainty because of things that seems to be dissolving, or what's going to happen next, and there's seems like there's nothing you can cling on to, I would step away from that, even the astrology of it, of what you're taking in. And I think it's a big part of a transit like this. And I think that's where one's faith, regardless of what it is or how they do it, is very
Yeah.
important, to give one sense of self, of like knowing exactly where they are, and can one um, use a tool or two just to give them calm, you know. Uh, anyway, that's my true message with all this in the end.
That's a really good way to come to a conclusion anyway, with a
Yeah.
message.
Yeah. I mean, what are you going to do?
Yeah.
What are you gonna do if you're freaked out? You got to find a way to regulate and calm yourself. If you got to binge watch a Netflix series to calm yourself down, to clear your brain, go do it. I'm not gonna judge anybody. I obviously want people to do actions in the world that are healthy for themselves. But when we're dealing with doubt and fear and what the world is, and then we're watching astrology and we're like, oh, it's the end of an era, it's this or that. People hear even those two words. If I say the end, what it can mean to people. They might just hear those words. They're not going to hear things from other things that we talked about. So even, you know what I mean? Like, it's like what people are taking in,
Yeah.
what they want or don't want, and it's habitual and it's subconscious.
Yeah.
So for me, it's like, hey, it's like everything's going to be okay. Everything's going to be all right. It's like
Eventually.
trust. So
Have
yeah,
faith. And yeah, I think that pretty much sums up the forecast for January 2026.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, we'll do Mercury, Mars stuff at the end. I think we should end on that, Ashwin.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, Mercury, Mars, the war of words. But I don't see
Yeah.
Mercury, Mars necessarily only as the war of words, because for me it's uh, so it's more about coming to terms with what we can do with the available resources by discerning what we need and what we don't need is basically about Mars and Mercury. So Mercury, we all kind of tend to uh, stick to the communication aspect, and we bring in Mars and say that, okay, this is a period where we might be lied to, or this is a period where we might be deceived. But for me, it is about having this conversation within ourselves, the speech or the communication that we have with our inner self, that is eventually going to motivate and inspire us to kind of move forward and do something, is a lot about Mars and Mercury conjunction. The sincerity that we build in terms of having continued focus to stay in our path is Mercury and Mars conjunction for me, especially kind of having this Capricorn flavors and moving forward. I think this is what I see, the uh, kind of having this little playfulness and presence of mind, but still consistently focusing on the ultimate goal, um, is is really the key for me with Mercury and Mars conjunction.
Yeah, I kind of what's come up for me with this is important too, and I'll put it up on the screen. I'm gonna surprise you, Ashwin. I'm gonna surprise you with this one, but I think you're
Cool.
gonna know exactly what I'm doing here. This is October 19th of 2025.
Huh.
And you could see here we had here. Remember, we were gonna do a retrograde that's was gonna
Yeah,
happen here.
yeah,
And the funny thing is like the retrograde, when it did happen, it started in Sagittarius. It went all the way back to 20 Scorpio. I remember this, right? So anyway, but this is the first, we did a Mercury Mars conjunction in Scorpio,
yeah.
right? There on there. And then we we did another one on the 12th. Let me clear this out. We did another one on the 12th that happened when Mercury was retrograde at 6. This is like the stationary degree
Yeah,
that happened, right? We did that.
sure.
Um, yeah, we did. It was big. It was big. I remember it
It
was big in the
was.
United States
It,
because it had to do with the government shutdown. I remember what happened here.
correct. Yeah.
Um, yeah, and then here is the chart that we're talking about here currently here. Now it's different here, and I think I'm saying this to, well, oh, here's the other one. Here's Mars, Mercury. This is Capricorn. Am I correct? Yes.
Yeah.
Let's see what here. I think you know what I'm doing here.
Capricorn.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's okay. And then what were we talking about? Mars or Venus, Mercury, Venus. So for me, I look at things from a moving on perspective of like what Mercury has done this whole time when it's been relating to personal planets. I mean, mind you, there's the oppositions and stuff that happen and all that. But when I look at what's happened with Mercury's journey, and I'm a huge Mercury fan of how it's moving through, because a lot of times in astrology, Mercury's carrying all these messages of its conjunctions and aspects with the planets, and it's not picking any sides. It just turns into whatever that is it needs to at the time. So for me, I'm looking at a lot of Mercury Mars that happened, and then I'm getting to a place of Mercury Venus, and I'm like, okay, um, not only do we get to move forward, but I feel like there's just some sort of release, especially when it comes from fixed signs, because we did this originally with scorpionic stuff and the depth stuff. When we deal with Aquarius, it's a whole different thing. Again, as somebody filled with a bunch of air, I love talking in circles with people, not in circles, but in people, and having some sort of dialogue. And, some of the dialogue that could happen here, you know, with Mercury Venus could be freeing in a sense to go along with the Aquarius archetype. But I think there was all the internal that happened with Mercury at the last part of the year. And then we have this boost that happens externally with Mercury and, and Venus and the relating and the exchange. And it's not caustic per se, even though Mars is around there. I feel that it can be, I don't know, there's just some sort of free thoughts going on and free relating, and also weird. I think it can be weird too and different. But I don't know. I know that's a weird way to end a podcast. My weird way of looking at what Mercury was doing was Mars and then going to Venus. But whenever I see Mercury touching the inner planets and what it does, I don't forget what happened 2 months ago. I don't forget those things.
No, I think it's the continuation, like what we had during the October station, and followed by that we had this retrograde station, and now we are in this moving forward station, and I think we also kind of mentioned this in the passing about this particular conjunction in Capricorn, if I'm not wrong. But yeah.
Yep. Yeah, I'm a big fan of I guess this whole month, Ashwin, I guess, is conjunctions and
It's the
these
conjunction month,
lunations.
as you said.
Conjunction month, yeah. Again, with Mercury picking up speed and moving through and touching other planets, I don't know. He's my little guy. He's my little friend, my little trickster friend. When all is lost, I always go to Mercury. I
When
always
in
go.
doubt, Meriadoc, always follow your nose.
Yeah. Actually, that's a really good Mercury, way to end it right there.
Okay, I think that pretty much brings us towards this playful Jan 2026 forecast, and we hope you'll enjoy. So with this, we on behalf of everyone on CAPISAR wish you all a very wonderful and a fantastic 2026.
Yep. Yeah. And happy 2026 to you, Ashwin. It's
Thank you.
I don't know, it's the third one of these doing it, like these forecasts. So I
I think
enjoy
it's
doing it.
the fourth for
Fourth or
September,
fourth.
October, November, December. Oh, it's going to be the sixth. So
Yeah. Oh wow. Yeah, it's going by, and yeah, everybody watching, you made it this far. You get chapter markers, the whole deal. If you're still here, please subscribe to the channel. Help us support the channel, and so we can
yeah,
keep doing
and don't
this.
forget the consulting skills and ethics classes. Info@capisar.org is the email ID, and capisar.org is the website. Sparkles of Gold is where you can find Nicholas.
It's
And
my Sparkles of Gold has high ceilings. Mars and Aquarius, my place has really high ceilings for my brain to just go, that's where the sparkles come from. Come from that place, Ashwin.
I think this is the month of Sparkles of Gold. I like that.
My progressed moon just entered Aquarius.
Big
I have
air,
I have an
anyway.
Aquarius moon and Mars in Aquarius, North Node in Aquarius.
Yeah, so you're going to have this nodal return very soon, and it's going to
I
be
am.
conjunct your moon, progressed moon as well. So
Yes, I am. I could feel it. It's like I'm a little antsy. I could feel like, oh, here comes. This is the time. Now I get to, show the Aquarius part of myself, and that's why I'm acting all weird at the end of this video.
anyway, I think we both will see you in the Feb forecast, and until then, take care.
See you later.